Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV, and hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. What is a talking head, you ask? A talking head is an expert who comes to our platform, USA Global TV, to host their own show for 30 minutes to share their expertise and knowledge to make us better personally and or professionally. Our talking head today is a legend in the television industry. He is a huge part of our platform here at USA Global TV, and he is a co-host, a talking head, and an elevated listener. He is also the voice of USA Global TV, and he is now known around the world as my mentor and friend. Let's welcome him to the show, Mr. Al Cini.
You know, Dr. Jacqueline, you were so generous in your introductions. That whole legend thing creeps me out just a little bit, but I'm willing to accept it. I'll roll with it if you say so.
Just say thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's implied.
One thing I didn't get to announce is that you also are an expert in the male-female dynamics of how to have a great relationship, right?
Well, that happened to come up just during the break. I know you mentioned that you're planning to develop a property on USA Global TV that focuses on the man's point of view. And I just gave you one little example from my own life that I felt would be a fun topic to explore if I were ever invited to participate. So if you grace me with an invitation, I'll happily share my experiences, provided I'm masked and my voice is on.
We are starting a show in April. I'm still figuring it out, but it's a show about men, for men, by men. So I will not be on the show. I'll be producing it, and we'll have the same thing for women. So you definitely will be a part of that journey.
It'll be more my, it'll be funny. I can promise you that, because more my experiences along those lines are pretty hilarious. So it'd be fun. I'd like that.
Excellent. And also for our friends who are just joining us, we also have the Talking Heads panel. Our first episode is April the 12th, and we'll include 5 of our talking heads, and Al Cini is one of them. It should be a fantastic show filled with a lot of fireworks and debate, because we have 5 strong personalities, and you'll be given a topic right before the show starts, and then I'm going to go backstage.
We do whatever we want with it. Exactly. Now that's a little scary, but it sounds very exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
I am too. We're going to shake it up a little bit, but I know now you are going to take the stage and you're going to present your third lesson. The second one was mind blowing. I still have it hosted up on our USA Global TV's Spotlight. And the first one was amazing too. And you were the one who said that you couldn't do 30 minutes. I think I could leave you up here and come back in a couple hours. You
could probably come back next Tuesday. I'll still be talking. With this one, I'll keep it to 30 minutes, but this one's my favorite subject of all the subjects, and I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to go backstage. Do you want me to put up your whiteboard, or you'll do it when you're ready?
I'm ready. I'll do it when I'm ready. I don't actually have an intro story. Just go ahead and turn it over to me, and I'll bring it up when the time.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be
Thanks,
here.
Doc. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and what I want to talk about today is, our process is called brand and culture alignment. And just to remind everybody what that means, brand for us is behavior, and culture is the feelings that you get, the sense of pride that you get that motivates your behavior. Now, what makes it a culture is the fact that it's shared by a lot of people who are focused together as part of a team or part of a company on a common mission. So Motivating behaviors in individuals become a culture when everybody shares that motivation, when everybody's proud of the same thing. And then the behavior they exhibit when they manifest that pride, the way they treat employees, the way they treat each other, the way they handle their work, all those things collectively are their brand, that shared pattern of behavior that identifies them as a member of that team. So when you walk into an Apple store, there are patterns of behavior that you observe and logo hanging on the wall and products surrounding you that make it clear that you're in an Apple store. And there's a culture that kind of goes along with that, a set of feelings that go along with that. And anyway, brand and culture alignment really for us is a very behavioral, kind of a scientific thing. What I'm going to do now is bring up my note system. It's very fancy. And I'm going to walk us first of all through a reminder. And you may remember in the first episode, we talked about how people really do learn by emulating, observing, and patterning their behavior after role models. And that power of role models is really at the essence, it's at the heart of any strong brand. Every organization has, if it's a successful organization, has at the heart of it a role model. We actually call that a role target that represents that organization's collective best self doing its best day at work. Now, in order to measure that, we've developed a system that is based on 4 ideal role models, the first of whom is a role model that we call the expert. So our image for that is, let's say, a watchmaker, somebody who works in detail. This is somebody who knows an awful lot about just one thing. They concentrate on it, learn, improve their skills in it, improve their knowledge of it on a continuing basis, tend to work in isolation, never make any mistakes or rarely make mistakes, measure twice, cut once. And the value system that drives the expert is precision. They're proud of the fact that they're very exacting in their work. The second is a driver. A brand definition is driver. Drivers are people who get to the point, cut to the chase, move things forward, and often set deadlines. So experts, drivers, creators. This is kind of the way I'm naturally wired. And we mentioned in prior shows, in order to be effective at what I do, I need to dial this back. And I'm consciously mindful of that when I work. Although my nature might be to be a little spontaneous. Spontaneity doesn't always work for me in what I do. So where I use it here and there, I don't make a point of highlighting it all the time. And that's part of one of the adaptations I make when I'm expressing my workplace brand and culture. Anyway, a creator is somebody who thinks outside the box, puts a lampshade on their head, does surprising things, does things mostly to get a rise out of people. And finally, there's the caretaker. And the caretaker is somebody who follows a method, follows a procedure, respects tradition, believes the rules were made to be followed, and also works well with others. They know what tools to use. They carry those tools. They use those tools the way they were trained to use them. They follow a checklist to make sure they don't miss any steps. Anyway, those 4 role models collectively, when you arrange them, represent our model of brand and culture. This is how we quantify brand and culture. Precision, resolve, innovation, harmony. Those are the 4 cultural quadrants in our model. They each represent the extremes, those 4 extremes. And so far, we've been describing them as individual characteristics. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I know this model works. One of them I related in our first episode when I talked about my experience in audience research at NBC. I won't repeat that. You can go back and you can hear that story if you go back to my first of the 5 talking heads that I'm going to be doing. In this one, what I want to do is tell you the other reason why I know that this works. And it's because while we were developing this method, I spent a little bit of time with a developmental psychologist that I know. And I was describing the model to her. And she said, it's interesting because the model you're describing is what we observe when we watch children at play. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, when kids play, and we're not talking about competitive sports like baseball or football or soccer, we're talking about pretend play, although there's another word for that I'll tell you in a second that'll really kind of turn your head upside down, that she taught me. When kids get together to play, they play 4 different kinds of games. One of the games that they play is the teacher game. Let's play school, where one of the kids is the teacher and they're imparting knowledge on a particular subject to the other kids. That's game number 1. Let's play school. Game number 2 is the authority game. One of the kids gets to be a police officer. One of the kids gets to be a fireman or a firefighter. One kid gets to have authority or responsibility for getting things done. And in the play, they are enacting getting things done with the other kids that they're playing with. That's the second game. The third game is the circus game. Let's put on a play, or let's put on a play, or let's put on a show. The circus game. That's the third kind of game that kids play. Pretending to be animals, pretending to be a ringmaster, building a pretend stage, acting out scenarios on the stage for the other kids who are in the audience. That's game number 3. And game number 4 is the let's take care of somebody game. Take care of somebody game. That's doctor or nurse, where we sit together and pretend that we take care of each other. We cure each other. We treat each other. Okay, now what does this mean? This means that when you get people together in groups, and we're talking about adults here, not just children. When you get people together in groups, they play 4 games. They play the resolve driver game, which is an organization that directs an outcome, or they play the precision expert game, which is an organization that analyzes things deeply and professes expertise in a particular body of knowledge, a research company, or they play the entertainment game, let's impress, surprise, and motivate people, or they play hospital, doctor, that take care of people game. What this means is that when you organize people into groups or teams, their activities naturally fall into 4 broad patterns of behavior, brand, and culture. And those 4 games that kids play actually neatly map. And another reason why I know that our model works is because the games kids actually spontaneously play very neatly map into this model of brand and culture that we created. Now, we've already talked about this, but I'm going to restate it. If you've ever heard the expression that when somebody saw something, their mind immediately jumped to a certain place, meaning I saw an Apple logo, or I saw a police officer wearing a uniform, or I saw a nurse wearing scrubs, your mind immediately goes to a certain place because that behavior is emblematic of one of the 4 games that people play when they get together collectively. I mean, you recognize uniforms that people wear. You recognize behaviors that they engage in. You associate those often with organizations that those people might be a part of. Now, we've already seen that there have been some research studies done that indicate that when you say analytical words like scientific or exacting or meticulous, that there's a certain pattern of behavior that lights up in a PET scan in the human brain, and this has been observed worldwide. So it appears that this isn't culturally specific. It's not specific to a particular country. It seems like when you say your brain immediately goes there, when you see a scientist, this is the place where your brain goes. That the brand scientist takes your brain here. That's important to remember. We'll see why that's important a little later on. When you talk about the military, or you talk about a police department, or you talk about a firehouse, your brain goes here. There's a thought pattern associated with that level of play. You learn this when you were very little. It might even be ingrained. We're not sure if this is learned or inborn. We just know that it's been observed all over the world. And when you see people acting out authority in scenarios, your brain goes there. When you see people having fun, entertaining each other, surprising each other, dancing around with lampshades on their heads, your brain tends to go here. That's the innovation culture. And when you see people working together, solving problems by following a checklist, using the right tools, maybe wearing uniforms, where the uniforms identify them as members of a team, then your brain naturally tends to go here. So there are brain patterns associated with strong brands. Those brain patterns are what build customer loyalty, and more importantly, or just as importantly, employee loyalty. This is a very important point that we like to make, and I think we made this point in episode number 2. There is really, in any company, no actual practical difference between HR and marketing. HR is about the people inside the company. Marketing is about the people outside the company. They're both about people. What we've learned in our research is something that confirms research that was done for an advertising campaign for the Pepsi generation back in the 70s and 80s. People don't buy products because of the product. They buy products because of the way it makes them feel. The actual statement of that is, when I buy from you or I want to come to work for you, it's because I believe that choice will make me a better version of myself. And that better version of self really is embodied in the brain activity that you inspire in me as I get to know you and get to learn more about you and I get to perceive your brand. Now, what does this mean in practical terms? Okay, here we go. And this is where it gets to be, for me anyway, a lot of fun. What we've done here is to organize 16 more or less familiar logos into 16 squares on our 4-factor model. Now, if you look at the logo here, Lockheed Martin, that is a pure red logo. That is all there is in the corporate Kool-Aid, in the water cooler for Lockheed Martin, is red Kool-Aid. When I drink red Kool-Aid, I want to get to the point. I want to identify solutions. I want to work hard to get things done and get things done on time. I've become very schedule-oriented. When I go to Six Flags, I want to have fun. I don't want 2 days to be the same. I don't want, I mean, I want to be safe. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm mostly about there, it's called Great Adventure for a reason. And that is, I'm into the adventure that it offers. And that's the promise it makes to me. That is a very yellow, innovation-oriented promise. Red, resolve, that's Lockheed Martin. Yellow, innovation, that's Six Flags. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia takes care of sick children and also takes care of their families. That is about as green a mission as you'll find. The people at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia dress the part, they act the part, they listen very carefully, they try to calm situations that might become inflamed down, as they often do when you're dealing with the health of your child. They're really good at dealing with people in often the worst circumstances they find themselves in their lives. That is very green. And in Geneva, Switzerland, there's a group of scientists, and we've actually done a little bit of work with these guys. It's the particle physics lab at CERN, which is in Geneva. And these guys find tiny little particles of matter that you can only find when you accelerate them at the speed of light. And I don't pretend to understand that at any level of detail. But I do know that when you see the CERN logo, and I'll explain that in a second, and when you understand really what CERN does, your brain goes to the precision quadrant. You think about experts who know an awful lot about a specific body of knowledge, who are better equipped than anybody else to explain and certainly better furnished with the knowledge they need to understand that body of knowledge. So let's take a look at these logos blown up a little bit. Because as it turns out, every company is a combination of actually all 4 of the culture, of the brand and culture elements that we talked about. But we're going to simplify the model to just 2. Let's start with the particle physics lab guys, CERN. Their water cooler Kool-Aid is 3 scoops blue, absolutely all blue. And if you look at their logo, this is interesting to me. When you see a logo that is drawn to scale, geometrically precise, the nature of that logo draws you to the precision brain pattern. So an organization that is an expert organization will often have a logo that is a geometric diagram drawn to a great deal of precision. That's not surprising. This is a really good example of that. I picked Google Analytics because I'm somewhat familiar with what they do. Google Analytics is blue. It is 2 scoops blue. No question about that. But the reason why they make the analytics promise that they make is so that you can drive better results on the internet. So their water cooler is 2 scoops blue, 1 scoop red. And as a result of that, if you look at their logo now, all of a sudden the soft curves of CERN have become sharper angles for Google Analytics. Arrows that show connection, points, especially that show progress or that show a geometric progression or a numerical progression. Those are all really good examples of logos that represent precision in some way, When you mix it with red, you add a certain amount of red color to it. You put angles in it. That makes it red. Okay, so the brand that you see in the logo is emblematic of the combination of brand and culture that represents the brain pattern that your brain goes to when you see that logo. It's where that company wants your brain to go. Let's keep going. Take another look at Lockheed Martin. When you see a logo that has arrows in it, and those arrows show direction, when you see a logo that has arrows in it, that is red. Now, Lockheed Martin is pure red. They're an example of a logo that promises and delivers getting things done, identifying the target, eliminating the target. Remember, this is the defense contractor part of Lockheed Martin. Now, when you slide over a little bit here to the Central Intelligence Agency, things become a little bit more analytical and a little bit more scientific and a little bit more geometrically precise. It is a red organization, which is signified by the fact that it has an official seal. But inside that seal, there's a geometric diagram that indicates the brand blue. The Central Intelligence Agency is about influencing and affecting policy, government policy, that's red. And the way they deliver on that promise is by analyzing, gathering information, studying, and reducing it to something actionable as a result. Accenture, I like Accenture. Remember, here we go again. There's an arrow that shows direction in the logo. That is red. You can always count on Accenture to give you firm, strong, direct advice about what you should do next. But at the same time, they deliver it by working together collaboratively with you and the members of your organization, forming teams to achieve the results that they ultimately end up recommending. So that is Accenture. Accenture is 2 scoops red, 1 scoop green in the water cooler. And favorite of mine because I used to work there. NBC, well, really, I made a little mistake here. This really should be yellow. Whoops. Hang on a second. They are really 2 scoops yellow. NBC, though, has a news organization. They're 2 scoops yellow, 1 scoop blue. Six Flags is pure yellow, strictly about the creativity. Advertising agencies are 2 scoops yellow, 1 scoop red. The yellow represents the creative promise that they make. The red represents their method, which is to drive your behavior in a way that improves your market share. And finally, a favorite of mine is Amazon. And I want to talk about Amazon because that's going to bring all this home. Let's take a look at Amazon. We're in the green quadrant, which means primarily any logo, any company that is 2 scoops green is going to be about building a community of people who respect each other and understand each other and work together. Amazon is primarily a community. You become a part of Amazon by joining it as a member. Membership comes with privileges and with expectations. Those expectations include principally when they tell you you're going to have a package by Friday, they mean it. So that promise that they make, that because you're a member, you'll get what you asked for and you'll get it when they say you're going to get it, and that they won't fail at that task, that is what makes Amazon and their brand 2 scoops green in their water cooler and 1 scoop red. Now, I want to x-ray that a little bit because I want to show you how that translates to their logo. Arrows that show direction are red. Soft curves, circles, those are green. So when you're looking at a logo and you see a lot of curves and circles and round shapes, that logo is getting your brain to move in the green direction by showing you those shapes. The Amazon logo has a smile in it. That is a green smile. But at the same time, at the very right end of that arrow, of that smile, there is an arrowhead. That arrowhead shows direction. That makes their logo 2 scoops green, 1 scoop red. I'm hoping you all follow this, because your logo, if it's green, it's going to have circles in it. If it's yellow, it's going to have a lot of different colors and a lot of unusual shapes in it that don't necessarily match. If it's red, it's going to show arrows that indicate direction. If it's blue, it's going to show geometric shapes or arrows that show connection between things, not direction, but connection. That's how you convey graphically the red, yellow, green, and blue brand and culture model elements. And if you design your logo the right way, as soon as somebody sees that image, their brain will immediately go there. That's the magic of it. Now, I'm not a graphic artist, but I can tell you, if you give those guidelines to your graphic artist and tell them those are the elements you want to see, then that'll begin to work. Now, I want to talk a little bit about sub-brands, because eventually companies become so successful that they make other promises too. Prime Video promises to entertain you. That is their principal promise. Prime Video is a sub-brand of Amazon. That company, really, it's a whole separate company, is 2 scoops yellow, 1 scoop green. It's a member community again, primarily focused on entertaining you. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that they still have the same logo type elements that Amazon had. Over a period of time, I am predicting that you will see this change. It's already changed to a pretty big extent. Originally, what is currently known today as Prime Video was Amazon Prime. There was a very, very strong connection between the video, online on-demand video part of Amazon and the Amazon delivery system, the package delivery and order fulfillment system. Over time, they've changed the name of this part of the company from Amazon Prime to Prime Video. They're changing the logo colors to something different. They're keeping the smile with the arrow at the end of it. And I'm telling you, probably in about a year and a half, you're going to see that go away. What they'll end up doing is creating, if they have any kind of an indication that they're part of Amazon, it'll be very subtly placed somewhere where you hardly notice it. A Prime Video needs to have its own brand. As they gain market share and become more successful, they'll want to take your brain away from where it normally goes when you see the Amazon logo and bring your brain here instead, which means they'll be changing their logo. Now, that's called brand evolution. That means that the people who run Amazon know that while it may have started here, while this might be where the company began, when they inaugurated Prime Video, this is where it needed to migrate to. That is brand evolution, and it represents a shift from water cooler flavors, 2 scoops green, 1 scoop red, to 2 scoops yellow, 1 scoop green. A little bit of green left over, but a whole brand new element of yellow, which does not exist in the Amazon parlance as a company at all. And again, over time, I think you'll see that logo changes to be more indicative of and more reflective of where they want your brain to go. Now, what does this mean to you? Well, if you go back to Talking Heads number 2, and I'm just about finished for today. If you go back to Talking Heads number 2, you'll remember that what we've done is develop a system where we ask everybody in a company to think about the entire company as though we're a single person doing its best work on its best day to keep all of its promises and achieve all of its goals. We take the answers they provide to that question. We provide them with a survey experience where they get to answer a bunch of questions over 15 minutes to quantify those results. And then we plot all those results on a map that show us pictorially where they all landed relative to each other. What we get out of that is a picture of the average. I'm drawing that in here. You can see that. The average of all of their answers. That for us isn't a culture or a brand. It's a comfort zone. This draws a picture of the comfort zone that all these people see when they picture their work as though it were a person. And the reason why that's important, and we'll pick up this subject, we're just about finished, we'll pick up this subject next week, is, I'll give you an example. When you ask police officers to profile a police department as though it were a single person doing its best work on its best day, what you get back from that is what police officers normally focus on. Guns, badges, uniforms. That's the trappings, the brand, the mental brand, the silo, actually, comfort zone of a police department. when you think about it. If you ask a school to profile the school when it's doing its best work on its best day, let's say a private school, a high school, private secondary school, what you get back from those teachers is a comfort zone that lands very much in the green. But when you sit down with the leaders of those institutions and you talk to them deeply, now that they understand the model, about what it is they really want from their organizations, the people who run the police departments, these are police chiefs and the communities they serve, they all want to move their police departments further toward green, brand evolution. I want our police officers to be less like police officers and more like teachers. And if you ask the people who run a private school what they want, they'll tell you, I want our teachers to move a little bit more toward the red. I want them to behave a little bit less like teachers and a little bit more like authoritarian police officers. Because what private schools want is more discipline in the culture of the school. What police departments want is less structure, rigidity, and authoritarianism in the culture of the police department. That's brand evolution. And when we get together again next week for Talking Heads number 4 on this subject, we'll talk about how the behavior you engage in drives the brand, and how by making a simple inventory of commitments to change certain behaviors, you can completely change the culture of a team overnight. Team, company, organization, almost instantly. So thank you very much for joining me today. And Dr. Kerbeck, were you able to watch any of that?
Of course, Mr. Cini, I watched all of it.
Did it make sense to you? Because I wonder every now and then what's going on inside my head, and is it coming out my mouth sideways?
I thought it was really fascinating. I was looking at the various brands that you were showing, and I started thinking about some other brands that I know of, like Nike, for example, and the swoosh. And I thought to myself, I wonder if this is all, if people are forward thinking and insightful from the beginning when they are developing their brand. Because to me, I didn't know anything about this until I met you. And I was even thinking about our own brand here at USA Global TV, which is another conversation. But it really makes you think, especially when you're talking about the police wanting to be more like the teachers and the teachers more like the police. It's, what is your brand saying about you? And are you even aware of it?
And is it translating into the actual behavior that reinforces the mission you're trying to accomplish? Now,
yes.
Let's use your brand as an example, because
I've got one here.
Being there from the beginning. I mean, by the way, I'm really looking forward to the May 1st reunion show. That's going to be a great day.
Yeah, I just brought it because of our logo.
Well, and if you look at your logo, and you can see it in the upper left-hand corner of the green screen too. And for that matter, in the Talking Heads. Now, see, if you look at Talking Heads and you look inside the little logo, when you look at that logo in particular, and you look inside those heads, what you see are arrows that show connection, lines that connect things, and inside the shapes that those lines form, you see geometric shapes. The USA Global TV logo is in one of them, but there's a light bulb, which is very geometric, in the other one. That is a blue logo. That tells me my brain goes to Talking Heads is about expertise and imparting knowledge. That's what it tells me, right? Now, if we looked at your original logo, and we don't have any of your earlier branding, but you remember when we first started out, it was all about fun?
Yes.
So we had a kind of a jazzy music intro, and there were a lot of things moving around, a lot of activity. The very early manifestation of the Dr. Jacqueline brand was entertainment. The early going of it was, we're going to have a fun time. This is going to be a fun conversation. But over time, you changed all that. You started inviting people who had experiences to relate. You started inviting people who had knowledge to impart. And your logo moved from an entertainment logo to a kind of a news organization logo. And that really, to me anyway, is what you represent with USA Global TV. It's a shift away from just trying to make people laugh and give people a fun time, into really changing their lives and transforming their lives for them. So there's a little bit of yellow in that still, but there's an awful lot of green in that. And the curve in the logo, USA Global TV, takes my brain to community, caring for people, following a methodology that puts me in the mood I need to be in order to be receptive to the kind of content you provide.
Wow. Thank you, Al.
Yeah. And that's brand evolution. It's supposed to happen. I mean, sometimes it's just a little change in the way you represent your logo that makes a big difference. You don't have to change your logo. People still recognize the basic shape, but a little change from an arrow to a swoop, or those little things communicate huge electric patterns inside of people's brains that really change their mood in dramatic ways sometimes.
And you shared with us about Amazon, and then about Prime being a separate business model for them. And you said that in some point in the future, we'll see that Prime branding change. So when you talk about an evolution, is there a necessary evolution for all brands to flow and ebb and flow over time? Or
if they want to gain market share, they really do have to shift. Although what you'll find though is once a particular brand becomes dominant within a certain marketplace, that brand becomes so preeminent that it could stop. It doesn't really need to change. Although where you see it, what you see behind it, what you see with it, that can change. I mean, Apple's now in the process of branding a streaming video service. They're using the Apple logo, which is, and they're fortunate in that the Apple logo already is in the rights quadrant for a streaming video service. The funny thing about Apple is that everybody always thought they were a technology company. And so when they see it on our diagram and it's not in the blue quadrant, they think it's a computer company. Shouldn't be blue. Apple was always a lifestyle company. That's always what made Apple a successful company. They're a lifestyle company. They're not a tech. They use tech and they sell tech, but they're about lifestyle. The iPhone, aside from its pluses and minuses as a technology product, you buy this because of the way it makes you feel. That's why people are willing to spend an extra $400 for a smartphone from Apple. If you think, because they believe that they deserve the best, and Apple has done a brilliant job positioning themselves exactly there, where you would find a style or fashion company, same brain set. So they don't have to change much, but they will have to morph as they become more successful. I'm assuming they will become more successful in producing streaming videos. They're going to need to create a subculture for the video production part of Apple that may wander completely away from the Apple logo.
I'm an Apple user, and I was thinking about what you were saying about the experience. And I also have an HP computer that I bought for another reason, and I never use it because it's just not me. I don't know why. Everything I have is Apple, and I just like I don't know. I like everything about it. This other computer just sits there, like, look at me like, when will you use me? Probably never. I don't know.
They know this. They know this about you, and they know this about the millions of other people that buy their products. And you've got to give them a lot of credit by whatever means. I mean, Steve Jobs may not have been the kind of person anybody wanted to be. Really, he was not necessarily a role model to live a human life. He was a very troubled, weird individual. There have been enough movies out there that portray him that way. It's pretty much common knowledge now. But it wasn't people. The role model for the role target for Apple isn't Steve Jobs. It's what Steve Jobs loves. What Steve Jobs loves is different style statements that set you apart from other people. That's the fashion business. That's why he was so difficult to work with. That was why he was so demanding of the people around him. And that's why his people love that. That's what they love. They don't necessarily love Steve. Because he created such a powerful brand, he didn't need to live. He didn't need to stay alive to see it happen. You could turn a powerful brand over to a steward like Tim Cook. And as long as they understand the brand and they know what it is they're responsible to serve, as long as they keep serving that brand, the company will just keep growing.
I love what you're saying, Al, and I have two comments. The first is that I have this Apple Watch, right? So I have all these different bands. This is a huge part of my life because it's like part of who I am, because it's measuring everything that I'm doing all the time. And it gives me reminders. Maybe you need mindfulness, check your heart rate, whatever it is. Like when I broke one. It fell off the counter, and I was literally freaking out that I didn't have my watch. Yeah, and I had to get another one. And of course, it was even more money than the first one, but I don't care. I love it. It's near and dear to me. The second thing is, and I want to look for something, and I want to show it to you and get your opinion about this. I'm very interested in this as a brand. Just give me 1 second. I'm not leaving. Okay. I love this brand of shoes. These are Christian Louboutins. I've never even worn these. These are in my display case as a piece of art. They have the red sole, and you can identify them from anywhere because of the red sole. And I like them because not everyone has them, and they only make so many pairs. So what is this brand? What are they saying with this red sole?
That is, well, first of all, when you get into that aspect of the fashion business, you're talking about if you have a competitive nature. I mean, if you have a natural desire to stand out in the crowd and maybe to, in a measurable way, be further advanced. I don't want to say ego because that trivializes it. If you have a kind of an orientation toward dominance of some kind, then that kind of a product will appeal to you because it's a display of the fact that you've achieved something in your life. It's a way of communicating that you have accomplished something. I mean, if you're not collecting Jim Beam bottles, some people do. And that's not knocking Jim Beam. You're collecting something that shows you as an important player. And it's important for you to communicate whether you feel as though you've accomplished that or not. You want to be identified as a person who is working to accomplish that. That's where that brand comes from. That's where the Apple brand goes there too. I mean, in a lot of ways it goes there. And I do want to point out too, your watch, if they sold a device that gave you all that information and you kept it in your purse, you're wearing it as a watch because you want people to see it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're wearing it as a watch because you want it. Watching this. See, we talked about this a little bit because WeWork was that huge $40 billion company that grew up out of nothing and then kind of fell apart. It was started by a crazed 30-year-old person. And there's a great series on Apple that is on Apple TV that's talking about that whole progression. It's really worth watching. If you look at that whole progression of things, it's very much the fashion business and very much fashion dominated. And it becomes more a matter of the way you feel about something than what it actually provides. For a lot of people, real estate is just space. It's a place to go and put things down and work. What this guy did was communicate that people want more in their jobs and more in their lives. And he built a lot of the practicality was kind of overlooked, and that's why there's so much trouble there now. But the basic idea that people want more from their jobs is what he captured to build out of nothing a $45 billion company. And that desire, that feeling becomes that's what the brand represents. I want to be a part of that. I want to fit in with that. I want to be associated with that. I want my friends to know that I'm that. And that all becomes a part of you. It's
so deep.
If you ever, it's deep. And yet, I mean, I never took any anthropology courses. I didn't have to. Otherwise, but I kind of regret it. I wish. If you study anything about anthropology, is that people name things all the time. We're always taking inanimate objects and giving them names. That's where language comes from. That desire to name, to brand something is very primal. It's very primitive. It's like the beginning and the essence of language. To trivialize it by saying it's just a picture on a letterhead ignores couple of 100,000 years of human evolution and the real power of all that from when we used to paint pictures of animals on walls. It isn't just the picture. It's the feeling behind the picture and the community that was built around that picture. And that's what really powerful branding is about. The whole thing about BCAT, our whole job in BCAT is that anybody can do it. You don't need to be Apple to create a brand that people find memorable. You're doing it with USA Global TV. And someday when you've got millions of viewers, you've only got a million, so you've already got a million. But when you've got millions of viewers, that'll be part of your legacy. And that'll be where they came from. That'll be what drew them there.
I really agree with what you're saying. I was thinking about the whole thing with the shoes, and when my father was alive, we used to get into these spirited debates because he couldn't believe I would spend so much money for shoes. And I would explain to him, this is not just a shoe. This is like, it's like I've arrived. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know where I arrived,
It's
but
a
I don't even have to wear it. These shoes are probably 4 years old. I may never wear them, but they're, to me, it's like a piece of art that I earned through working. I know that probably doesn't make sense, but
and that no, it makes perfect sense. It makes exactly perfect sense. Automobiles have brands that if you go to a GM dealership, a General Motors dealership, you'll see a Chevy Bolt, which is an electric car with a really fancy electronic display keyboard, blue. You'll see a Chevy Cruze, which is a family car, green. You'll see a Corvette. You've never seen a more yellow car than a Corvette. That's designed for people to just say, I mean, it's not even practical. And your typical human being can't even get in or out of it. It's a chore just to do that. It's totally impractical, but a lot of fun. And you made a statement, a yellow statement when you buy that car. And if the statement you want to make is red, like with your shoes, you'll go to the Cadillac dealer.
yeah,
That'll be the car you want to own.
what I've put out into the world is I want to have a blue Bentley convertible with a blue top.
That's red, by the way, but it will be blue. It shall be blue because it's not the color that matters. That's important to remember too. The blue, red, yellow, and green don't have to be the colors in the logo because different cultures ascribe different meanings to those colors. So if you're in India, then green has a different connotation than it does in the United States. That's just the way it is. And that's learned. So the colors are just for our model. You can get any color Bentley you want, but when you get that Bentley, it will be red.
Okay, that makes a lot of
Bentley
sense.
is a red statement, absolutely red statement.
Before I do that, I'm going to have to get out of the house because I'm always here.
No,
So I don't need high heels or shoes or cars at the moment. But I do have another question for you if you have time.
Okay. Sure.
Are you able to pull up the Coca-Cola logo?
Yeah, sure.
So this
remember,
is my
that's a legacy
question.
logo, so that's a little. Hang on one second. Let me go back to sharing the screen.
So while you're looking for that, I'll just bring up the reason why I'm asking. So
Sure.
I don't drink soda. I haven't had a soda in 20 years, 30 years, but I know someone who drinks soda all the time. And when you think about soda,
Mhm.
everything that we read is that we shouldn't be drinking sugary drinks. So
Right.
what I'm wondering is, and I believe that the company owns a number of other things. I think they have water and other products or services. But so if you look at Coca-Cola, that logo, I think, has been the same for a long time. And the main brands that they're known for when it comes to the sugary drinks or the drinks that are artificially sweetened or the zero, whatever it is,
Mhm.
are they're not it's not recommended for people to drink them per se. So how do they keep their branding relevant when their products are not I'm trying to be careful what I say here.
No, I know. I mean, it's Coca-Cola after all. I mean, it's pretty widely. It's like cigarettes. Yeah, I mean, there are still people who smoke. They're still printing those warnings on packs of cigarettes that tell you if you do this, you're going to die, pretty much. But still, people believe that if they do it and that it won't be them. It's
Right.
only for other people. Or if they only do it one pack a day, they'll be okay. And yeah, and there's some research that indicates that you could smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes a day, and it's no different than just walking around in the world. So it's not like you touch a cigarette and you drop dead. It's the overuse of it that you really need to kind of concern yourself with. It is certainly not a good idea to drink sugar water from a nutrition point of view. That said, the Coca-Cola brand is about having fun. So you associate it with being with other people and enjoying yourself. So even if you don't drink it, you're probably going to buy a couple of bottles of it to have out and serve it to people. I mean, typically, if you're going to have a party, you're going to have it around, even if there's no way you would ever drink any of it. You're going to buy it, even if you throw it out later. And it's about community. It's about gathering friends around to have a good time. And the logo itself, I mean, it's changed a lot over the years, but it's a lot of curves and a lot of script. I mean, it's kind of a loopy, crazy, fun yellow representation of a lot of curves and letters that have a lot of round elements in them. So, I mean, if you look at the logo, it kind of brings your brain here. Let's throw a party. Let's have a good time. Coca-Cola will be part of that experience. And of course, we're not just going to have a party with just one person. We're going to invite some people over. Coca-Cola.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially even if you don't drink soda. There's some people who want to have Coca-Cola in their alcoholic drink, like rum and Coke or.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. You always have Coke at your parties or at your dinners or whatever because someone is going to be drinking it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
So, and it really is the party that you're kind of buying into, not necessarily the drink. It's the experience, the social experience. That's kind of what they're selling to.
Yeah, my memories of Coca-Cola, I'm really giving this away, but when I was in college, being hungover and you wanted McDonald's and a Coke to bring you back to the world. Did you ever have that experience?
There was, when you're talking about Coke, it's such a variable experience. I like it in bottles. I'm not as fond of it in cans. I don't drink that much of it. I mean, I can't. I'm at an age where I really, if I want to keep living and breathing, I've got to go easy on stuff like this. But I still enjoy a Coca-Cola every now and then. Not so much in cans. I like it in bottles. At a fountain where they, kind of spray it into a glass for you. To me anyway, that's when it tastes the best. That's when I like it. So I'm more likely to order it out when I know they're going to be spraying it out of that hose. It just tastes better to me that way. Funny thing.
Well, I always loved the taste of Coca-Cola, and my mom loves it. She drinks it all the time. But I just stopped, as I mentioned, like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I don't remember. But but that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking, how do they stay relevant? But you just answered it because it's about entertainment and everyone being together and a shared experience.
Yeah. And Pepsi, I mean, that whole concept of people don't buy the product. They buy the better version of themselves. They think the product delivers. What Pepsi did, and they really did make great inroads against they went after Coca-Cola in a big way. What Pepsi did with the Pepsi generation is identify their alternative to Coca-Cola as for young people. So they took all of us baby boomers and they reprogrammed us to think Pepsi would be a better way. Actually, maybe not us, but maybe our kids, because that was a little later than we would have been. When we make this brand choice, we tend to be young anyway. What they wanted to do was to take the people who are still about to make the brand choice and stratify the market, and they pitched Pepsi as the think younger generation. They were a lot more yellow in their advertising, a lot more about throwing a party. Michael Jackson was their spokesperson. Very individual. I mean, where Coca-Cola will advertise showing a group of people enjoying Coke and having fun together, Pepsi went the other way. Let's show one person having a Coke on a stage that other people are admiring. That's jacking up the yellow. That's even more yellow. And the more yellow you go, the younger audience you appeal to.
Fascinating.
So there's a very effective way to pitch to young people is to just increase the yellow experience in your advertising, whatever that might be.
I remember back in the day when I did drink Coke, they had these signature bottles. I don't know if they still have them or not, but
yeah.
And the vending machines were red. I remember Pepsi was blue. I don't know if they still are, but I was always drawn to the red. And I didn't even want to give Pepsi a try because I just loved the taste of Coke and I just liked the branding. I just felt connected to it for some reason.
Yeah, once you've created a brand like that and you've managed to sell it to a large group, I mean, you got a lot of people on board with it, you pretty much can count on perpetual sales of that brand forever.
Yeah.
Until your product kills that generation, whatever that might be. And that, I mean, with cigarettes, with smoking in the United States anyway, that's always a challenge. Although I don't understand what drives a young person to pick up a cigarette. I really just don't understand where that comes from. Used to be peer pressure when we were kids that you'd want to smoke like the other kids or the older kids did, But I just don't understand why cigarettes are still a thing in the United States. I know overseas they're huge. But here in the U.S., you would have figured we would have walked away from them by now.
Yeah, I, believe it or not, have never even tried a cigarette. I always associated cigarettes with coffee, and I've never had a cup of coffee, and gasoline. They always went together for some,
They
like, why?
They do. It's funny. The diner is next to a gas station, and the coffee cup has somebody crushed out a cigarette in it. It's
Yes.
disgusting when you add it all up. And as a kid, that's going to leave an impression in your head. I know. Believe me. Funny
Yeah,
thing.
that's probably what I saw. Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember that as a kid.
And McDonald's with the yellow arches, so you have the curves and the
Yeah.
yellow. And they, I think, I don't know, maybe they did start carrying Pepsi at some point. Do they carry Coke and Pepsi?
I think it's Coke. I can't remember what they're. It's not Pepsi. I'm pretty sure it's Coke.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So you can collaborate, brands can join together, and what's that called? Co-market or?
Yeah, you could. And, you know, to take the M, which would normally have angles in it, which is either more blue or more red, and make it arches, make it soft curves in the shape of an M. That's an example of shifting green to make community. And, you know, when you combine it with mascots like the hamburger characters, cartoon characters, that's a lot of yellow, which kind of connects with kids and people who just want to have fun. So it feels like a fun day out with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your brain goes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Al, when you think about the work that you do with your clients, how do you bring this all together for them? So for business owners, leaders who are out there, they're thinking, you know what, this is really interesting. I want to give Al a call. What can they expect from working with you in this area?
We follow the 3-step process. We want to find out from everybody in your company what they believe is your brand and culture. We do that with the survey that we created. We map all that using the techniques that we've shown. We quantify it and show you how far apart all those answers are. Then we sit down with the leadership team and say, okay, this is where everybody thinks the top of the mountain is. But you're the mountaineers. Where is the top of this mountain? Where should the top of this mountain be? And you know, and then that's the step that we kind of summarize today. We move forward then based on that's how we do it. So we have that leadership team meeting where we identify where the top of the mountain ought to be. Then we go back to everybody and say, this is what we think we are. This is who we think we are when we're doing our best work on our best day. Anybody have any opinions about that? Sometimes it changes based on what everybody says. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes everybody just agrees that's where we should be headed. And then the last step is the step we'll talk about next week, which is how do we make the little resolutions that it takes on a day-to-day basis? How do we answer the phones? How do we greet the customers? How do we make the products? How do we deliver the products? What are those things that we can commit to on a day-to-day basis going forward that reflect our support and our love for our brand and our culture? How do we become the company that we say we are in everything we do, say, and write, whatever that might be?
I'm excited for next week's episode.
Yeah,
this is such valuable information, Al.
I didn't think it would be easy. I don't know why. I mean, it's something I've been doing for a long time, and I just thought it might be, I don't know. It took me too long to get to the point where I took you up on your generous offer of making me a talking head, and I really appreciate the opportunity, Doc. Thank you.
Well, you're exceptional. So I'm glad that you're here, and everything that you're sharing is really thought provoking. I mean, I'm looking at what we're doing here and thinking, I need to just look at the big picture of what is the messaging, what is the branding, where are we with the scoops. So I'm actually going to watch this one again.
Well, you know my number. If you have any questions, call me. Or you can send me an email at al.cini@getbcat.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again.
The way I kind of wove that
I
in.
know. I love that. It's always a fun and educational time with you, Al.
Well, it's great working with you. And as somebody whose brand has evolved in a really, really positive way over the course of the last year, and the product I think you bring to your audience is such high quality, I'm honored to be associated with it. I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. As you know, I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we're going to sign off for now, and we've got a couple of other shows coming up, so do stay wherever you are. Al and I are going to leave for now, but I will be back at 4:30 Eastern time.
Thanks, Doc.
All right. See you later. Thank you.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Just call my name. If you ever feel down or feel afraid, 'cause nothing is stronger than men who stand as one for a long time.
All the things that pass, million times the troubles seem to be
Easy, and days felt so bright with you.
I remember you always been my family member.
That's the time when we need to stand together. I made this song for you. Hope it reaches and puts a little bit
Smile on you
and fills your mind with hope, because you're not alone. We're together in this love. We stand forever.
Peace is what we need. Everyone knows the truth, no matter which side you pick. You might realize
You're not alone. We're together in this love. We stand forever.
one thing to remember, and magic words we need. Slava Ukraini, навіки. You're not alone.
Меня зовут Маша, мне 9 лет, я живу в Красногоровке, у меня все хорошо. Кушать у нас есть, пить у нас есть, сахар у нас есть, все есть. Только дров не хватает. На буржуйке, когда у нас есть, вот эти мы дрова пособираем, закинем, оно горит. Например, в 10 запалили, в 11 закончили, вода нагрелась, и все, и мы купаемся.
В наш дом 4 было прямых попаданий, так что мы боимся человека даже осколками. Поранило, забрали в больницу с 6-го подъезда соседа, так что мы тоже боимся, у нас много деток. Деваться нам некуда, нас никто нигде не ждет.
Когда вырасти, я хочу найти работу такую, чтобы я помогала людям, которые бедные, там.
Take a moment.
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 So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.